Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Montreal by Night. This is the City of Dark Miracles. We're picking up our scene where one Chloe Winters and Radu Negru had entered the heart and are currently awaiting some of the sisters for their advice to tackle a problem that has presented itself to the Sabbat. In a back room with some privacy, these two formerly estranged Canaanites, well, perhaps they'll get a chance to get to know each other. Currently, at the moment, Miss Winters herself is sitting down in, I assume, would be one of the chairs provided in this little room. She's taking out one of her manicuring nails and is just picking the dirt and buffing her nails, keeping an eye every now and then on Radu. And Radu, what is it that you are doing right this moment?
Radu pretty much pulled himself a chair and is enjoying the time he has with his new acquaintance, studying her with a certain disinterest, not like your usual guy checks at the club, but he's looking at her like you'd see a historian looking at the statue, analyzing her mannerisms, manner of speech, small ticks and gestures. After they've settled in, just to break the awkward silence between them. I don't get it why you were so nice to that bouncer.
What's not to get?
Their food.
And you think you're not?
Food for what?
We eat each other, especially here in what we do. We're all food.
Technically, we don't eat each other. It's just redistributing power from the unworthy to the worthy, from the weak to the strong. That's how the food chain works.
You see Chloe smile. That's a very cute notion of it. I suppose that lets you sleep during the day.
There aren't many things that trouble my days asleep. I follow my path, I know why I follow it. Though most of the young beings consider it outdated.
Well, let me put it to you like this. You see, some of us, and when I mean us, I mean the Lasombra, for example. Not everyone inducted into our ranks are dragged out of an alley, hit in the back of the head with a shovel, and thrown into a ditch to be made something of, hopefully. No, some of us are raised from cradle to the grave to become greater, just like a caterpillar, metamorphosizing into a butterfly. So you see Jean Claude right there. Well, he may just be food for the moment, but he's no mere mortal, is he? He's been brought in a little bit closer in a circle near the center of what will become our family. I was there. I presume you were there. It is all a chain as much as a ladder that we're all climbing. I see no reason why I should offend someone who may potentially one day be in a position to do us good.
There you go again. You Sombra and your social Darwinism. How we all have equal chances to be the hand behind the blade that can behead another. It's a nice concept, I will give you that. Unfortunately, the die has been cast. We are here and he is there. If you'd go by your reasoning, then why do we feed on anyone? Anyone has a potential to become one of us.
Opportunity. At one point in time, if my history is correct, there was the eldest who was here and we were there until an opportunity presented itself and then he was gone. That is what created the Sabbat, is it not?
The Sabbat was created to help us fulfill our potential and to protect us against the wishes of the elders in order to usher in the will of our Dark Father. If we start treating our food with compassion and respect, we will starve in a matter of months.
Oh, you're going to have to explain that one, honey, because that sounds like a lot of bullshit. How exactly does paying your workers a fair wage, how does treating your dogs with a little rub on the belly necessarily mean that you are incapable of feeding yourself? That does not sound like a fault on the part of the servant. That sounds like a fault on the part of the master.
The greatest empires in history were built on the back of slaves, not paid labor.
Oh, and what happened to all those empires that were built on the back of slaves? Where are they today?
And last time I checked, China was doing pretty well.
That was China. And Rome was built on the back of slaves until Hannibal came along, Spartacus came along, the Goths came along, and then they were no more.
And the break in the church came along.
You see,
The
everyone,
rise of Christianity came along that said that no one should be a slave because we are all equal under God.
and yet here you have the great Catholic Empire that stretches from America, Latin America, Africa, all across Europe. Granted, they don't have a military, but they have power, they have influence, and they do well without necessarily the ball and chain slave.
Yeah. All these empires that were former colonies built on the back of the same slaves. Spain had their slaves, the United Kingdom had their slaves, the Dutch had their slaves, the Portuguese had their slaves.
And where are they today?
Well, the big difference between us and their empires is the fact that we have all the time we need on our hands.
The eldest had us as slaves until my clan freed ourselves from those bonds.
It was not only your clan.
Wasn't yours.
My clan has a weird relationship with the
Hmm.
political structures of our kind. We never were the ones for hierarchies and order for pompous politics. We did what we felt was right.
And that's exactly what I do. I do what I feel is right. So Jean Claude may be just a lowly ghoul, but maybe someday he'll actually get embraced. And maybe someday he'll climb the ranks and he'll remember a kindness that I showed him when no one else did. Or maybe he'll die in a ditch. It doesn't really matter. If A little bit of a smile and a pat on the shoulder would break your faith, then I don't think your faith is all that strong to begin with.
It's not breaking my faith. It's proving a point. We live in the world where survival is still in the hands of the fittest. I'd rather hone my skills and the skills of my brothers and sisters than dream of potential canites that would save us eons from now.
You see, that's exactly the problem with some of the, how do I put this delicately? Those who are not of such vintage as I am. You have no vision. You see the immediate concern right here, and that's good. That serves a purpose. But without a vision of what's to come, without a plan set for the future, then when the unexpected happens, what do you do next? You don't see potential, you just see conflict.
Once the eldest of each clan is dealt with, once the ivory tower of the Camarilla falls for good, then I'll plan for the future. Until then, my road is set.
If you find yourself incapable of planning for your own future until all those things on your docket list are completed, I feel very bad for you. You are more a slave than I.
Better a slave to philosophies that have kept our kind alive throughout the ages than a slave to philosophy which leads you down the path of becoming a puppet to the elders.
And just so I understand you clearly, are you equating compassion with the bond of slavery?
Compassion is a human feeling. Compassion makes you forget your needs and the needs of your blood. Compassion has no place in our condition and no place in the will of our Dark Father. Showing compassion to your food starves you in the long run.
I think you need to check your book of Nod, my friend.
I think you're a long way away from teaching me anything about the Book of Nod. But it is a fine discussion. I think we should let philosophy and ethics for another time. So,
Agreed.
my dear Chloe, how is Unlife treating you in Montreal?
Boring.
I'm sure your packmates come with entertaining ways of passing the nights.
If you call my pack mates my sire's vicarious connections and those whom I've drank with, I suppose, yes, they do have some interesting evenings about them.
So I take it that current nights find you lacking in a pack?
No one that I would necessarily call my peers. You must understand, I was groomed for my position.
Regardless of the position you're groomed for, any Sabat. That dares call themselves true Sabat is a member of a pack. That's how our bonds stay strong, and that's how we survive the night.
Well, I suppose I have yet to meet anybody that I have decided to call my pack mate.
I seem to be in a similar predicament. I am what they used to call in Knights of Old a pale rider, a nomad. And whether I wish to settle in Montreal for longer or not, I might need to find a pack of my own as well.
So you're here to settle down and set some roots. Is that it?
Maybe, maybe not, who knows. The city has sparked my interest, so I might decide to stay a while. See
It is
what
a
the
very
city. Yes, the city of dark miracles, how they call it.
Have you ever been to Mexico?
No, I never reached that far down.
Neither have I. I've heard things about that place.
Yes, I've heard the region keeps an impressive court.
Oh, I heard that it was a shithole.
I heard the country was a shithole. I heard the domains that our leaders keep is a regular jewel in that shithole of Mexico. And take it from someone who comes from the very romanticized land beyond the forest, and I can tell you it's not how it says in the books.
That's reassuring, I suppose.
Yes. And with nothing with the Samizi running everything, and I would not dare speak ill of the clan of the fiends. But there are some aspects that I found lacking.
They are a very interesting group.
Well,
My my sire seems to fraternize with them quite often. I don't see the attraction, but nonetheless, they are our principal allies.
it is interesting how you always tend to mention your sire.
I was close to sire. Were you close to yours?
Don't even remember the bitch's name.
Hmm.
In case you weren't aware, my clan has an unconventional way of siring.
It would explain a lot.
We are groomed to survive, not from a young age, at least not from a young mortal age. Gangrel of old used to count their age in winters spent alone in the forest, and neonates have it harder than elders because we do not have the skills necessary to survive during the day. So we must make do with what we have. And I can tell you, I can take any shitty bed any day instead of a hollowed bark, a hollowed stump of tree in a wood somewhere with the constant threat of lupines squirming around. makes for a better sleep.
Hmm. I can't say I've quite roughed it myself, unless you call being stuck for months on a yacht roughing it. But that sounds quaint.
I'm sure it was regular hell.
You may see me as someone who is prim and prissy and, well, uppity. And you'd be goddamn right. Because everything I am now, I've got to where I am because I've taken my beatings and I've taken my lickings. Sure, my clan does present quite the face, but you'd be surprised to learn what one goes through when entering the halls of La Sombra.
I know that clan, worthy of being called a member of the Sword of Cain, has its dark sides too. That's why we survive, and that's why we're here, and that's why some meatheads are stuck, opening and closing doors in bars.
Mm. Actually, I would disagree with you on that. Not in principle. It is a fine point. But again, going back to the example of my clan and their rebellion against our eldest, we were stuck because the eldest refused to give power where it needed to be given until it was taken for itself. Let me ask you something, Radu. Let me ask you a really good question. What if, for some reason, one day, Jean Claude ups and burns this place to the ground, but still proclaims himself loyal to the sword? Do we embrace him as a brother, or do we kill him as a traitor?
Dear sister, to certain years, your words might spell treason.
But
Though no matter what he does and what he decides to do, after a fair trial, his fate will be chosen. It is not for me to say what will happen to the ghoul of another. Rebelling against your masters is something that the Stabat stands for.
isn't that what the Sabbat was born from? Rebelling against our masters? Don't you see the inherent paradox and contradiction?
Yes, we rebelled against masters we could overcome. A ghoul burning down a club in the middle of the day would be foolish and would lead to nothing.
But why?
Killing members of the true Sabbat as a ghoul is not gonna get you anything except a fast and painful death.
Only if everyone else disapproves. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't have any ill will against the sisters, and I doubt Jean Claude would be anywhere near capable of replacing them. All I'm saying, all I'm trying to ask is, at what point is treason actually patriotism, and vice versa?
Hmm.
I mean, well, I don't know. You seem to have had a lot more worldly experience than I. But haven't you ever met someone who is in a position where they're supposed to be, but they're only there because people allow them to be?
As long as they prove skillful enough to maintain their position, see no reason why there should be changes in leadership. Revolutions never brought anything good.
You wouldn't call the birth of the Sabata revolution in and of its own?
It was not a revolution. It was simply reminding our misguided and sidetracked elders what our father wanted us to do.
I suppose that's a finite point that could be argued until the sun drowns in the sea.
That's why I avoid discussing philosophy with those who are of a curious disposition. I know my points and I know them well, but I'm in no position to answer uncomfortable questions. I have my own questions, I'll give you that. That's why I came here in the first place. There are notists here way beyond my skill. And I have questions of my own. Though the matters at hand still sit on the table, and here we are discussing philosophy. We are two able Cainites, both with our skills, opposite though complementary, both lacking a pack, and both with a problem on our hands.
Okay, so if we bring the question back to the problem we have at hand, then do you think this epidemic was started by this bloodletting scene because it was just an accident, or do you think one of our own made it happen?
I think it could be spread by a careless shovelhead or by a careless chowder. It is known that sometimes things like this go awry, or it could be simply a mortal thing. Still, the point still stands. It affects our food source.
Maybe we should ask what new embracees have joined our ranks as of late, who has gone missing, who hasn't been seen.
I think it's less of a question of new embracees and more of a question of shovelheads for the crusade or Camarilla infiltration that went haywire. Or for all we know, we might have a visitor that wishes us ill. And this is an organized revenge orchestrated by someone. Though I'd severely doubt that an elder with enough skill and enough knowledge would be so sloppy as to make front page news.
Well, someone willing to poison, and I use that term loosely, poison, to infect the population of Montreal on such a wide scale is either an unstable individual or perhaps someone that really doesn't know what they're messing around with. I mean, if I was someone against the sect, I would be very careful about infecting the food supply because, well, once one of us are infected, there's no barriers keeping us from feeding on someone else of another population elsewhere in another major city.
And I've never investigated this, though there could be an even An even more pressing matter with this epidemic. The Voldari is, after all, our most holiest of rights. One of us gets infected, all of us get infected. All of us get infected, we spread it. We need to take good care when we feed, where we feed, what we feed upon, who we feed upon. Because even though our body is not affected by this disease, spreading it among the human population might endanger the silence of the blood.
Now that's a question worth asking. Has any one of our members been infected?
Not as far as I know.
That's
I haven't
something you should know.
I haven't fed in a while, and I usually take good care of where I feed. And even though it's not to your palate, yes, the occasional rat or dog serves the purpose.
Well, I'm just thinking outside the box here. But if I was someone that knew what we do and how we do it, then once we infect a small part of the populace and once one of our members are infected by the rituals we practice, we'd all potentially become infected. And then subsequently, every time we feed, we'd reinfect the populace. So I think it's important that, amongst other things, mm, we suggest that there be a wholesale screening of any Sabbat who may be infected right now.
Yes, but we need either a doctor among our ranks
Hmm.
or we could cut this from the stem and find someone with enough authority over the mortals to command the screening of every living person in Montreal. I have that off our hands.
Or how about we take blood samples and run it privately through a doctor with the right equipment and just silence him?
You know how long it would take to take samples from all the humans in Montreal?
Not the humans, the Canaanites. Let's find out which Canaanites are infected right now. Because if we find out which Canaanite is infected, we may be able to target whom they fed from that is infected, and we can work it backwards to find this whole bloodletting scene going on.
Fair enough, but something of this magnitude has to be ordered by the Archbishop herself.
So, run it through the Archbishop.
I came in the city 4 days ago. How much authority do you think I have?
You see Chloe roll her eyes. Oh my god, that's right, you're an outsider. Don't worry. I'll work it up through the channels. I'll see what I can do.
Besides, if memory serves me right, she's a member of your clan. You should work it faster.
We'll see.
And since you mention your sire that often, maybe they have the right connections. I don't know how you work for all I care, you could have the same structure as the Ventru, the Nosferatu, or whoever else is so tucked in it. We play fast and loose. That's how the gang rules roll.
Mm-hmm. And that's why the Lasombra are the clan in charge.
And that's why the La Sombra come to the gangrel when they need brute force.
And right now, brute force isn't going to do us a whole lot of good. So be patient. And coming from me, Radu, that says a lot.
You actually developed feelings for me too. And you see him mocking you openly and making big puppy eyes, which are kind of besides the point as he has his fangs out.
No, I just feel bad for you.
Do I get a hug for that?
It'll cost you.
Humor me, what's the price?
You see Chloe go into her tablet, clicking a few notes away, scrolling. Going rate these days 150.
You're so dead without your Wi-Fi.
Listen, if you want therapy, then that's the going rate for an hour session. You can have the hug and talking's free.
I'd rather skip it. Now about the other matter at hand. Because we don't know when the sisters might show up. And I'd rather have this out of the way as a long-term plan, as you recommended. As far as the sisters, tell me, there are quite a number of packs around the city. But I've never heard of a city that has too many packs. And most of these packs are inclined to certain philosophies that, even though respected and useful in the Sabbath, make for gatherings of pretty one-sided individuals, at least from my experience. So it might not be that crazy of an idea to form a pack of our own, unless you have something against working with. How did you used to call us in the days of old? Ah, yeah, I remember. One of the low clans.
Me? No, no. My sire always thought that it was good to walk amongst the plebs. I can work with you. You need brains, I need brawn. It's a good match.
What makes you think that I don't have the brains to match?
If you did, then I think you really need to be trained in how to use them.
I can use my brain, I just choose not to for menial affairs.
And I'm sure cripples choose not to walk.
If I weren't who I was, and you weren't a woman, you'd go flying through that door in about 2 seconds flat.
You sure about that?
I've taken more insults from lesser people in my day, but it usually ended with their head sitting upon a pike. Take of that what you
I'm
will.
not. I admit, I'm not the fighter type, but you really don't want to go up against my dad. And besides, if it makes you feel any better, I represent my sire. I'm his kid. And it means however I treat you reflects upon him honor, yada, yada, yada. I can play nice.
And who's under the yoke of the elders?
Well, it's more like tradition than a yoke.
Yet my tradition keeps me free, and your tradition keeps you on a leash.
I wouldn't call it a leash. I would just say it's a nobility. To be noble, we all have to make certain sacrifices.
There was a certain philosopher a few hundred years ago that said that for a bird that lived all its life in a cage, flying is a disease. I notice similarities.
Well, in cities, which are, yes, quite like cages, you can't just go flapping around and cooing at the wind whenever you want. You got to learn how to play the game or you're going to scare the big game off. I'm sorry, I'm not much of a hunter, so I don't know what terms you use.
Yeah, I like you. You're, after you get over the bitchy overlays, you're a nice kid. I should take you hunting sometimes.
Why not? My sire showed me how to use a Glock and a 9mm.
Did I at any point mention weapons? You're a child of the night. You have your abilities. Learn to use them. Do it the old-fashioned way.
Oh, you're one of those, like to rough it kind of vampires, huh?
No, I like to perfect my form and my abilities.
I'm a child of the modern era. I like to adapt and update.
Don't get me wrong, I can shoot again. It's just that I choose to hone my other skills, like a proper K-Knight.
Well, like I've heard it said before, a shotgun to the face solves a lot of problems.
A daughter of the clan that can turn the night itself upon somebody, and you choose to use a Glock. And he begins slowly clapping.
Hey, like I said, I was groomed for my position. And the killing and the hunting, well, that'll come later.
You will taste your freedom in due time, child. You will see what it means to be K-Knight. And after that, we shall talk again.
Very well, but there's one final piece of philosophy I want to convey to you. Cain ruled a city once, right?
Yes.
Do you think he ruled it on a throne?
Honestly, it is of little matter.
How one rules is all that matters.
Yes, and instead of having a role of brotherhood like the Sabbat, why tie ourselves to our sires and our elders. Are we not our own people?
Oh, no, 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 no. See, you misunderstand. You misunderstand me. I actually admire my sire. For us, Lasombra, this gift, the gift of Cain, it is a privilege unlike anything other else. Now, the day my sire becomes a fuck up and a shame to me, well, I may have to distance myself from him. But for now, I'm proud of him. Aren't you proud of your sire?
Like I told you, we met her in a club. 2 bottles of vodka later, you have this before you. Everything I have, everything I am, is of my own doing. She just gave me a kick in the right direction. For all I know, she might even be dead by now.
You see Chloe kind of frown. That's kind of sad. But if it doesn't affect you, then I suppose that's another issue in which we come to an impasse.
I respect your decision to honor your lineage. The only lineage I care of is the fact that I'm a child of Cain. Like we are all. The rest are middlemen. As far as our philosophy goes, even though we fail to see eye to eye in certain aspects, we are just different sides of the same coin. As far as our problem goes, your idea of having tests among our kind in the city might be the wisest decision we have on hand. Though getting our petition to the ears of the Archbishop might take a while. And for the most pressing matter at hand, at least for me, it seems that you care more about what Daddy wants than having a pack of brothers and sisters, to each his own.
I never said I was against joining another pack. I just, as I've said, haven't found anyone yet that I would call my peer, but you seem to be a viable candidate.
Do I get a gold star for that?
You get an introduction to my sire. And should he approve of you, then I'll make my decision from there.
You see him smirk but not say anything.
Hey, look, you just arrived in the city. You need more acquaintances and friends, don't you?
I need a pack and I need a mentor. That's what I need. That's what any member of the Sabbath needs. I need brothers and sisters to whom which I can trust my own life, and I need someone to help me further my studies. Although I do not show it, I am more of a scholar than you'd think. I'm a historian by trade. I was one even before my embrace. I just shifted my focus afterwards. And though you find some of our tenets as paradoxes or mythology, you shall see the wisdom that hides behind my words. If you cannot do anything without the approval of your sire, I'm afraid you missed the whole point of the Sabbat.
Chloe smirks. Well, for all those things that you want and need, and for someone who's trying to help you along to get it, you sure do have a backhanded compliment.
What can I say? You're the perfect combination of nice tits and sharp tongue.
Why, thank you.
See, I can be nice and courteous too.
Do you want to know what I was before the embrace? Before my sire found me?
This is gonna be a Cinderella story.
No, it's pretty simple. I was a whore, trying to get her way through college. I mean, granted, I didn't really sleep around with men that much. I did the whole girlfriend experience things, but you know, as long as you're selling yourself, whatever body part it is, whether it's your ear, your mind, your time, or your pussy, you're still a whore.
In uh, an uncanny expression of affection towards you, Radu stands up and grabs your chin with two fingers and looks you straight into the eye. Remember, darling, Mary Magdalene was a whore too. Look where she is now.
Hmm. Chloe will take your finger from her chin, and that's the last time you ever touch my face without asking.
Hmm. Sensible, aren't we?
When you've grown up around the Shamisi, you understand why.
I do have many gifts bestowed upon me by my nature and my kind. Unfortunately, the gift of flesh crafting is not one I possess yet. But I'll let you know the moment I find it. Maybe with less to show, you'd learn a bit of modesty as well.
Hmm. Well, these sisters are taking forever, aren't they?
They have their own things to handle, but I'm sure that our investigation will go well.
Hmm.
So let's see if I got this straight just before they show up. The investigation's going good. I need to drink something before I go philosophizing with you because you sometimes have to make a point no matter what. And no packs without daddy's approval.
No, you misunderstand. It's not his approval, not so much as whether I can or cannot. It's whether he sees merit in you. I value his opinion, just as if you and I were in a pack and we decided to bring someone else in. It would be beneficial if we both agreed on the individual. Yes?
Uh, Clever. But I'm not looking forward to joining a pack with you and your sire. I'm looking forward to making my own pack. It just happens to have you in it. I care not for pleasantries, especially among your clan, knowing how rigorous they are and how high their pedestal is and how, from which a height they look down upon us.
Hmm. Well, let me put it this way. I can be humble. I have humility. I know I have a lot to learn. So, from my sire's experience, he thinks you're good enough to lead a pack. Then I'll follow.
No one said I'm looking to run for Ductus, Princess. I'm just the one that gathers the people. But
Mm, Still, it might do you good if you met him anyway.
I'll consider your offer and we'll leave it like that.
Hey, if you impress me enough, then I won't really need to ask my sire what he thinks. But he's a good judge of character.
Just pray to the Dark Father that I find that typhoid Mary right underneath your eyes, and I'll give you something to tell your grandchild.
Hmm. And this typhoid Mary, since you brought her up again, do you think it's a mortal or a canite like us?
Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
for the irony of life, I think it's immortal. I think it's a lonely little bastard who just hopped on the bandwagon when he saw Fab. And after sticking his dick into anything that moved and breathed around him for the best part of his life, he decided to go sharing all his filthy experiences with everyone else. I honestly hope that he is a he, because if it's a she, I might have to step on my good upbringing and show you another side of playing with flesh, the gangrel kind.
Oh, sweetheart. I personally have no problem smacking a bitch.
I don't stop at smacking. I have claws for a reason.
Mm. You should see what a backhand and strength of cane can do.
You should see what claws and a bit of speed can do. I'm almost sure I can bet that I could turn her into sushi before you get the chance to slap her.
Well, I would just like to have a piece of her. It doesn't matter what.
The lips,
Mm, More like the kidneys. They go for a great rate on the market.
not if they're infected with HIV.
Not if I don't tell the buyer.
Smart, pretty, former whore, into shady deals with the black market. Where were you when I was looking for a wife?
Being trained by my sire.
There you go again with your side. Out of character, unless you want to add something else to this wonderful discussion, I think we can call it a scene.
Yeah. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for enduring with this very interesting back and forth squabble, philosophy, roundabout discussion, and finer points. We will discover what happens next when we're rejoined by our storyteller. Thank the watchers for watching and the players for playing. This was Montreal by Night, signing out.